Hello, my spooky darlings, and welcome to Streams and Screams, the online show thing in which I watch a film that is currently streaming online that I liked, and I tell you about it. Today, I am back on my list nonsense because personally, I love making lists. It is my favorite thing to concoct a rough theme or concept or idea that a lot of films can fall under that umbrella, bundle them together, and recommend them to you, the listener, the viewer, the friend that I think should watch these movies based on this rough theme. So this theme, what is the theme, you may ask? That is an excellent question. I'm not really sure what to call it, but it's the kind of idea that there's like a hard left horror, a hard turn in horror, a sort of smash cut to horror, if you will. Those films where it starts off in a certain direction and you think that it's kind of one particular tone, and then it takes a sudden turn and you're like, oh, this is a very different movie. Kind of a genesis for this was I watched the movie Caliber, or rewatched the movie Caliber, I think from 2018. It's on Netflix, in which there's a hunting trip which goes horribly, horribly wrong. There's a tragic hunting accident, and our two leads must spend the rest of their trip hiding their horrible deeds whilst desperately trying to remain inconspicuous.
Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious.
So that's a sudden turn of the movie where it starts off in a certain direction and then you're like, whoa, that's a shot that I did not expect, and now they are in way over their heads. That's kind of the theme I was going for with this, so I picked a couple films that I wanted to talk about in that umbrella. These are the kind of films where you start watching them, something happens, and you can just like feel your guts fall out your butts. Like it's just like that gut dropping moment of like, oh no, this is things just got real. So yeah, let's explore that theme a little bit, if you will. The first film I want to talk about, has such a great moment of a sudden turn of horror. There's just like a tumbling down where everything stops, you freeze, and then it's just escalated so quickly in a moment of panic and chaos. The kind of film that this reminds me of is Alien from 1978. Absolute classic. I feel like this is the next film that does that especially well. And I am, of course, talking about The Descent by Neil Marshall from 2005. I don't remember if I've done this film already for a Streams and Screams. It's entirely possible I may have. I can't remember. Hey, editor's note. Yes, I have. So you can find that on the channel. But it is available for streaming on Tubi. So The Descent, again, starts off as a wonderful journey through the wilderness, a group of female friends getting together to rekindle their friendship and sort of join together after a tragic event. They go spelunking into a cave that is supposed to be very kind of straight and narrow, relatively, but things escalate very quickly and they realize they're not alone, and there's a true moment of terror. Absolutely iconic. I think everybody knows the scene I'm talking about. Just you immediately know that you're not in Kansas anymore, and this is a very different film from the first act that led you in. I feel like The Descent is like the OG of oh shit in that kind of moment of terror. I think it really has such a strong emotional tone behind it, as well as being truly definitively terrifying. Next, I want to talk about a film that I personally really enjoy. I don't see it pop up too often, so I did want to make sure to mention it on this list because I think it has a great example of a sudden turn into a very traumatic territory. And then also there's a bonus switch later on, which I don't want to get into because spoilers. I am talking about 2018's Incident in a Ghostland by Pascal Auger, who is also the director of 2008, I think, the new French extremity classic Martyrs, which if you're familiar with, you will know how intense that movie is. I think with Incident in a Ghostland, the first time I watched it, it's extremely stressful, I will say. At about 12 minutes, 40 seconds in, the film kind of takes a very sudden, very surprising, very startling turn. The first time I saw it, I maybe had some consumables, and I had to pause it after about 20 minutes because I was just jaw on the floor, completely unprepared for what I was watching. So high praise. But it has such a really cool kind of premise to it. This family, two sisters and a mother, that have this traumatic event unfold in their house, and it kind of follows the daughters as they cope with such traumatic incident. It is a haunting film that has very kind of strong themes. There is some SA involved for those that are sensitive to such things. It's not directly shown on screen. It is very strongly implied, very heavily implied throughout the film. So if you are sensitive, I will give fair warning. It is a really kind of powerful examination of this relationship between these two daughters and how they're handling trauma differently. So I really related to it. I connected with it in a big way. I thought this was such a cool little movie. So with Incident in a Ghostland, otherwise known as Ghostland, coming out in 2018, this film flew dramatically under the radar, as did a lot of great horror films in 2018, because that was kind of a blockbuster year for horror. We had quite a few films that year that stole everybody's attention. Now, what are those films, you may ask? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So we had Hereditary, Annihilation, A Quiet Place, A Halloween by David Gordon Green, Cam, Mandy, another really popular film, and there's a couple of the things that came out the year that I think were phenomenal that like nobody talks about, like Assassination Nation, Upgrade, What Keeps You Alive, Overlord, which I've talked about before for Streams and Streams, Possum, which is amazing. There was like a lot of great movies in 2018. Anyways, Incident in a Ghostland I feel is a very strong film, a very intense film, but it has an extremely stressful, haunting first act and an even more stressful third act. So it's just well constructed. So Incident in a Ghostland, aka Ghostland, from 2018, can be found on Tubi. Next, I'm going to talk about Fresh from 2022 by director Mimi Cave. So in Fresh, our heroine Noah is done with dating. Who can blame her? She meets this delightful young man. They bond, they connect, they decide to go for a romantic getaway together. But of course, something happens and their getaway is just ruined. That's all I'm gonna say. I feel like this is a great one to go in completely blind as much as you possibly can, because there's a moment where it kind of gradually slows down and your expectations are like, what's happening? And then it just drops you off a cliff. And it's such a fun moment. It's so cool that I feel like if you kind of know anything about the film at all, it might ruin it for you. So don't even watch the trailer. Don't watch trailers. Don't do it. The wonderful thing about Fresh is it's kind of about the resilience of the human spirit and the power of friendship. And don't we all need more movies like that in our lives? I think we do. It's sort of a full tilt romantic comedy right from the get-go. Again, I think it's best to go in blind. Better yet, if you have someone you like to watch this with, don't tell them it's a horror movie. Just tell them it's a rom-com that you heard about that you think might be fun to watch. And then just kind of see where that goes together. It's great. You'll enjoy it. I think probably, as long as the person you're watching it with is like moderately okay with some like mild to moderate violence, I guess. Mild to moderate. I'm biased. Fresh is one of those films that is such a delight. It was such an unexpected flick when I first saw it in 2022. I think it was like my first 5-star review of the year when I saw it. And I was so pleased with this one. I thought it was such a fun film, such a fresh take. And yeah, it's just genuinely a really enjoyable time. So Fresh is available to stream on Disney+. Next, I'd like to talk about Barbarian by our friend Zach Kreger, director of Weapons, which is now doing absolutely gangbusters at the box office. I've been following him since like The Whitest Kids You Know when I was in university, like way back in the day.
Turn around and say it again! Turn around, say it again!
Will you please be quiet? John, that is the President of the United States.
I don't care who it is, he's ruining Hamlet.
The thing that I love about Zach Kreger's work is, as a person that has a bit of a background in that sketch comedy, I feel like he really understands the two-sided coin of horror and comedy, and that it's all about timing. So with Barbarian, I think it is such a fun little flick in that you start off with this kind of dramatic comedic tone that seems like a Airbnb gone horribly wrong, but also so right situation where our young lead goes to stay at her Airbnb location. Surprise, surprise, Bill Skarsgård is there. Could this be terrible? Perhaps. Could it be wonderful? Also perhaps. We don't really know. So we're kind of brought into the situation already on guard, thinking that, you know, what's his story? Where is he coming from? Where is he going with this? Zach Kreger, I will follow you to the ends of the earth, my friend, because I feel like you really have a good grasp on that balance between horror and comedy and how that needs to work, how that balance needs to be struck. So Barbarian, again, is one of those films that starts off in one direction, you're kind of led down this little trail, and then suddenly you're not. You're lost in a basement somewhere and everything's awful. It's always one that I think of when I think of that hard turn into horror territory, because it is so sudden and so extreme and so effective. So Barbarian, of course, is going to be on this list. Barbarian is available to stream on Disney+. Lastly, I'm going to talk about The Coffee Table from 2022, which is a Spanish film. I know that they are making a Turkish coffee table from the director of Baskin. So take that, America, and your remakes of foreign horror films. They beat you to it, and I'm actually excited for that one because I really love Baskin, and I think that's going to be a cool little flick. But The Coffee Table, aka I've Made a Huge Mistake.
I've made a huge mistake.
Was shot in 10 days. It is about a couple that is sort of fighting over this questionably tasteful coffee table that is brought into their home with their newborn son. There's disagreement, there's discord. The husband loves the coffee table, thinks it's going to be a great setting. The wife is like, ugh, terrible. And of course, things escalate from there, and they do escalate very quickly, very suddenly. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of laughed at this film quite a bit. And I know you're kind of supposed to. It's like a very, very dark comedy. I struggle to call it a horror film, but it's more about like the horror of the situation. It's not horror in that it's a scary movie. It's not horror in that there's like this big villain character that's stalking you and going to kill you. It's more about the horror of what happens when they find out. And that is such a cool idea for a horror film, I think. That idea that we're focusing on horror of a situation and not horror as a threat. The Coffee Table, I really enjoyed it. It's got a ton of buzz online. Everyone was talking about this film for a while there. I believe it's available on Tubi as well as Shudder. So yay, Shudder, thank you. But it's such a nifty, very unique, very clever, very different type of film that takes that sudden turn into territory that was unexpected and very difficult to navigate. It's one of those you watch it and you try and figure out how you would react in the situation, and there's no right answer here. There's no correct answer. There's no easy way out of this. This is a real Kobayashi Maru situation.
Your final solution was, shall we say, unique.
So anyways, that's it. That is my collection of hard turn, sudden shift, how could it go so wrong type of horror film. And I think there's a lot of flicks that obviously kind of fall into that category, because who doesn't love a sudden shift into trauma? So if you have any other suggestions, please let me know in the comments, because I am always looking for new things to watch. Similarly, if there's any other films that are streaming that you'd like me to cover, that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. I'm always looking for suggestions, always looking for new films. On that note as well, if you're new here, welcome. If you are not, thank you for coming back. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, etc. It really helps us out. We really appreciate all your support. It's wonderful for the channel. I know we've got a ton of stuff happening, a ton of new films coming out that you might be seeing trailers for pop up all over the place. Lots of exciting new news. So thank you so much for your support for Black Fawn Distro, as well as all of the nonsense that we talk about on this channel and all the films that we distribute and support. So thank you for your support. That's it. Bye.